Hello, we're back again with another video, and this time we're going to look at how to make this awesome picture frame above the couch. Just like I do with most things, I went and got some reference and found a picture frame picture that I like. So the important things to notice are right here is where the picture gets placed into the frame, and then we have a swoop up, a flat, a swoop down and up, a little flat, and a fun little swoopy bit. And then it comes down back to complete the molding or the picture frame. So to make something like that, it's going to be a lot easier to make it with NURBS curves. I'm going to go to my side view. Because of the way my reference is facing, it's going to be easier to just copy that and then scale it and rotate it into position on the wall. So that's what I'm going to do. To create my NURBS curve, I go to Create, Curve Tools, CV Curve Tool. Anytime you want to change directions, you're going to need 3 vertices. So coming up for that first lip, I've got one. I go up about half a crosshair, go over about half a crosshair, and there's 3 vertices together, and they're going to do exactly what the edge loops do. In fact, those will be where edge loops come in when I loft the surfaces together from the NURBS curves. So everywhere there's a vertex, I'm going to be making an edge loop. So 1, 2, 3 to change direction, and I'm actually changing direction back in, and start my swoop up. There we go. Want a nice tight transition, so just like I would do with edge loops, I use 3 for a nice tight crease. 1, 2, 3, swoop. Bring my swoop down, bring my swoop up. 1, and there's the 3rd vertex of that set. Go in just a little further. 1, 2, come up, and then begin the next part of the swoop. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3, and the reference goes straight down, but I like the picture frames that I've seen that don't do that, that have kind of a curve to them as they come down. Then I'll go over 3 vertices there, and click to 1, 2, 3, and close it up. So you can see I undid as I was doing that. If I clicked in the wrong place, I just went to undo and changed it up. So I've got some of these vertices not quite in the right spot. No problem. I right click on the curve, control vertex, select it and move it, select it and move it, bring this in close for a nice tight transition. This should be flat, so I'll grab them all and scale them flat. Pull it down a little bit to make sure it's not bumping into the other ones there. Okay. Kind of want that curve there. That's a nicer curve. Those are fine. I will flatten these. R to scale them flat. And all of those should be one straight line, so scale them flat. There we go. And there's the profile for my picture frame. F8 to go back to object mode, and I did it twice, no problem. Rotate. Oh, my pivot is down at the origin. Modify, center pivot. And I'll rotate it so that flat part is against the wall. Looks like minus 90 degrees, so I'll type it in for exactness and push it up against the wall. There we go. I think that's a little too deep. So I'm going to go back to Control CV, Control Vertex, flatten that up a little, and then adjust that one. There we go. That looks a little better. Right click, Object Mode, push the new flatness against the wall. Okay. Now it's over here stuck in the wall, so I'll pull it out. Now I'm making a picture frame, and picture frames, the seams are all at 45-degree angles. This curve is where the seams are going to be. So I'm going to rotate it this direction, about 45-degree angles. Looks like I'm rotating in Z, so minus 45. Boom, there it is. And now I'm actually going to modify freeze transformations. That's going to make what comes next easier. So this one is at 0, 0, 0. Move tool, shift drag it over, duplicate, and I want it rotating back this way. And that's going to be 90 degrees. Okay. And then move tool, shift drag it up. I want a pretty big picture frame. There we go. And let's try 180. And this is part of why I zeroed it out. It's just so much easier to add 90, 90, 90 than 45, 40 to 90, 45 to 90. It just makes my life easier. Move and rotate 270. There we go. Now I want these to be in the same place. Translate X is what gets zeroed out. There we go. And now those are right one above each other. These should be the same height. I'll just make it 135 for a clean number. And these should be the same X. 210, 210. Oops, looks like I accidentally got a keyframe, so I'm going to right click on that and delete it. Since I don't want any keyframes, I'll select them both. And I'm going to clean this number up, just make it 210 even. Boom. Don't really need to do that, but I do want them to be exact, so actually I do need to do that. Okay. So now I want the picture frame to go from here to here to here to here to here. So I use Loft, which is a NURBs command. So I want to be in my modeling menu set, modeling, or F2 for modeling, surfaces, Loft, options box, and I'm going to say, let's see, reset settings. I just want this because this is what you'll see as a default. So linear. If I leave it on the default, let's just look what happens. One, shift click the next, shift click the next, shift click the next. Okay, apply. I get this nice oval shape. Select which curves? This curve and this curve. Loft between them. And there's a problem. I'm getting this one. It's a straight line between these two. This, because it's pushing through this one, then this one, it's trying to automatically curve. And that's the result of cubic. So I'm going to delete these two pieces of geometry and set it to linear. And now when I select 1, 2, 3, and 4, I hit apply, and there's a nice NURB surface. And I'm going to delete it because I don't want it. What I want is to output polygons. Now, I like to output control points whenever I do polygons. What control points does is make it so that every control vertex creates an edge loop. And that means when I smooth preview the polygonal mesh, it's going to look exactly like this curve. So it's worth taking the time to make this curve just right because it's exactly what my polygon mesh is going to look like. because I use control points to output. So go back to object mode, 1, 2, whoop, control select that. There we go, 2, 3, 4, and apply. There is my lofted polygon surface. Yep, if I hit F11, you can see the faces, totally polygons. F8, to go back to object mode, I select the first the curve. I got lucky. I clicked over here, shift clicked, and I got the picture frame. So if I shift marquee select, it will toggle the polygon frame out of selection and the NURBs in, and it also gave me the room, so I'll just control that one and get rid of it. And I hit loft one more time, the window automatically closes, and now I have these polygon surfaces. I want to make them one object, so shift click the other one to bring it into selection, mesh, combine, and now they're one object. I'm going to say edit, delete by type history. I can, after deleting history, I can safely delete those curves. And I want to close this up, so F9 for vertex mode, select all these vertices as well, edit mesh, merge, and let's see, there's another border edge in there. There it is. Let's see what the best way to find these is. Looks like side view will work. So select them there, zoom on up, and select them there, and I have 6 vertices. Interesting. Edit mesh, merge options box. I'll try 0.1. Hit apply. That looks like it got rid of those. I'm down to 4. Okay, cool. Got rid of that border edge. Wasn't going to be seen, but it just makes it cleaner. So this is my nice picture frame, but if I smooth preview it, I get some wacky roundness. So let's give it the supporting edge loops it needs right along these seams. Mesh tool, insert edge loop, relatively close in, 1 and 2, quick and done. Next corner, 1 and 2, quick and done. 1 and 2, 1 and 2, and done. So Q to get out of that tool before I randomly add edge loops. There's my nice, awesome picture frame. Now I need a picture, so I'm going to add a polyplane, create polyprimitive plane. And ooh, that's got some interesting creation history on it, so let's mess with that or fix that up. I don't want 3 subdivisions there. I want 2, so I'll just change that. That's 800 width. I'll drop it down to 150. Too small. By 180. Who knows? Doesn't matter. I'll move it over and bring it up, and then I need to rotate it. To figure out which axis I need to rotate it on, I can say, well, this one goes straight down and it'll rotate around that axis, so I don't want that one. Rotate around the blue, that would make it go this way. I don't want that. The red, ooh, if I rotate around that, it'll make it go vertical. So red, that's X. So 90 degrees in X. Okay, now it's the right way up. And I'll go to side view, F, and put it, actually zoom way in. Actually, I don't need to set it perfectly just yet. I'll look at it in my front view and get it to be the right size. So I'll put this as close to the center as I can. Scale it, and move it. Maybe a little bit bigger than that inset that I put. Not sure. Doesn't really matter. If it's interpenetrating and inside the picture frame, nobody will ever see that. So I don't actually care. Now, where's my geometry gonna be? Right about there. So I think my picture frame needs to do that. Now I can see that the normals, looks like I need to go in just a hair more. There we go. The normals are reversed here, so they're facing away from the camera, and that's why it's black. So in object mode, mesh display, reverse, boom. And now it's facing the right way around. And that is how we can use NURBS curves to make some pretty complex geometry, really fun shapes. So in addition to this picture frame, maybe I'll make a bowl. I'll go to side view. There's my coffee table. Create CV curve tool. I'm going to start just a little bit above. 1, 2, 3 to change directions. Giving it that little raised up lower edge that a lot of bowls have. Follow that change in direction, then 1, 2, 3 to change directions. One, two, boom. And now, to keep the curvature even, it's a good idea to put one control vertex on the inside of the bowl everywhere I put one on the outside. It's going to be a little different as I get down here because the inside of the bowl is going to have a slightly different shape. And I'll let that get a little more flat there. Okay. Q to get out of the tool. Control vertex. I want to change that. Just get that a little more rounded. I think it'll be prettier. Let that be a little thinner. Just tweaking the art because I have to. So I've got this profile for a bowl, and F8, oops, object mode, right click because I'm dealing with NURBS curves, object mode. And I'm going to center the pivot, modify, center pivot. And now I want the pivot to be right where these CVs are. So, whoops, D to get into the pivot, and now I can line it up there. And if I want to snap it perfectly, I'll turn on curve snapping. D, and now as I move it around, it's right on that curve, and as I push it, I can push it all the way to the edge. I know it's spot on. Okay. So now I'll go up to another NURBS command for making NURBS geometry. Surfaces, Revolve, options box. Object pivot is how I'm going to create it, and so that's why I want the pivot right there. So it's going to go around that. I'm going to want it in Y. Y is the vertical here, and so this is the axis I want it to rotate or sweep around to create its surface. And segments 8. 8 gives me a nice polygonal object that takes a smooth really well. So output geometry polygons and control points. And there I lofted it. Pull it out of the wall. Whoop, I've got curve snapping still on, so let's turn that off. There we go, click it off right there. Pull it till it's on that coffee table. And I'm going to center its pivot. Now here's a fun thing. This would have worked with the picture frame before I deleted history. I'm going to grab this curve. And notice as I move it, the curve is moving. Right now that's happening because I'm moving the curve away from where I did the revolve, and that's causing this to move away from its center. So let's let that go back, and I'm going to go to wireframe, zoom in on this curve, F to focus on it, and there I can see the curve and the bowl at the same time. Right click, control vertex. With history, if I want the bowl taller, I can do it. So I'll make it a little taller, maybe just a little rounder there. That's fun. Just a little for that one too. Okay. So that is the revolve tool, and as long as the history is on the bowl, this curve will affect it. Now I'm done with changes, so I say edit, delete by type history, and click on the curve, control vertex, right click to get there, and now you can see this curve has no effect on the bowl. So I'll go back to object mode and delete it. Bye-bye. And let's see, these vertices right here. The upper one is where I'd snap the pivot to on the curve. Below it, I have a whole bunch of vertices. So I'm going to scale those together, scale them down. Whoop, don't want to go past. That's going to be as close as I can get. And I just want to say, you can see I have 8 vertices selected. Edit mesh, merge, and it's down to 1. Cool. Just getting rid of the extra geo that I don't need. Let's make sure I don't have any here. Oh, that one does have 8 as well, so G to repeat, and I'm down to 1. Boom. It's black, so I think it's inside out. So let's see what happens when I mesh display, reverse. There we go. Now the normals are giving me what I want. Looks like it's having a little bit of trouble deciding about soft versus hard. So I'm going to click on it, mesh display, soften edge, see if that helps, and then I'm going to move it down so it's right on the coffee table. There we go. Okay, that is using NURBs to make a little bit of geometry. I've got a picture frame and a bowl made out of NURBs. The next thing I want to do is a little glass-topped coffee table with some really fun legs, metal, wrought iron metal legs. So I'll quickly throw together tabletop, create polyprimitive cylinder options box. I'll try a radius of 20, height of 3, axis divisions 8, height divisions 1, hit apply. And that's over here. And I'm going to lift that up, bring it over, F to focus on it, scale it a little bit flatter. Pull in. Okay. So if that's my coffee table, obviously it needs some legs. And for this one, I don't really have a good reference. I just know what I want. So I'm going to go to my front view and draw the CV curve tool with this create curve tools, CV curve tool. It's kind of a fun spirally shape. There we go. Something like that. I want it to be prettier. So well, that's getting there. Just a little more swoopy, curvy. Okay, that's good for the bottom. And every one of these control vertices becomes an edge loop, and by getting them just how I want them here, when I smooth the polygon output of this, it will look just like this nice swoopy curve. So now I want to I want to extrude something along this curve. So I'm going to create a NURBs primitive circle. And the circle is going to be the profile. Bring it over. The circle is the profile and the curve is the path. So I want to lock my circle to the path, so I'm going to turn on curve snapping, and yep, there we are. Boom, I got lucky, got right on it. And then I'm going to rotate the curve, rotate the circle rather, so that it's set to go along the path. Select the profile, select the path, surfaces, extrude options box, tube, yep, that's what I want. At profile, I think I want the result at path, control points to output polygons. There we go. And when I smooth preview that, it's that same nice curvy shape that we had. I'm going to say I like that, so I'm going to select that, select the object, the polygon object, delete by type history, delete these curves, I don't need them anymore. Modify center pivot and move this over under my table. And now I want to look down on it. Okay. Now tripods are pretty sturdy, so I want to make this a tripod. And I want to duplicate it. It's at 120 degrees, so that'll be a 360 circle, perfectly round. Basically, I want to do that around the center of this table. So I'm going to snap the pivot to the center of the table. D to get into the pivot, V to point snap. Whoop. Keep going. Oh, I've got curve snapping on. Let's turn that off. D and then point snap, V to point snap. There we go. And I'm going to use something called duplicate special. We haven't used that yet in this series. Edit, duplicate special, options box. I want to rotate it at 120. And I want 2 copies. I hit apply. There are my copies. Nicely done. Scale my table up just to cover them a little bit. Okay. Now we need to figure out what would actually be holding these things up. So I am going to make a torus. Create polyprimitive torus. No, radius, I have no idea, 15. But the section radius 0.5 is what I want. Axis divisions 20, sounds good. Height divisions 20, I'll leave it as is. And bring it up. I want my center right there on the center of the table. And where do I want this? I want it attaching the legs down here. So I'm going to start to scale that in. And right about there, it's always weird because it doesn't quite look like it's touching in all three spots. But because I'm scaling from the center, if it's touching one, it's touching all of them. You can see right there. But when I come over here, it looks like it's not. But yeah, right there, I see it is. If I'm really worried, I can get a little more interpenetration. It's definitely there. So I want another one at the top. So W and shift drag to clone it up. Focus. And I'm just going to drag it up till it intersects. A wee bit further. There we go. I've got definite intersection there. Okay. And there is this fun little table that looks like it has those elegant, swoopy metal legs. And if I take all of these into the smooth, there we go. Now for the table, F10, object mode, F10, there we go, Q to select. I want this border, this edge, and this edge. And so far in this course, I've been using insert edge loops to support. This time I'm going to look at bevel, and I'm going to click on this one, shift click on it to bring it into selection, shift double click this one, and it gives me that whole ring of edges around this top. And I'm going to go up to edit mesh bevel options box. 0.5 is probably too much. Let's try 0.2. Segments 1. Okay, let's give that a try. So what that did was split out and give me a bunch of triangles right here, but it added this edge loop, which to me really looks nice for cut glass, and added the edge loop with an offset. So you can see everywhere I had one edge, I now have two edges, and vertical. I have two edges. That's vertical as well as horizontal, and then to merge it back in, it gave me this triangle. Now the thing I don't like about beveling is I'm not totally in control of how that is made, but for something like this table, I think it looks great. So I'm going to use my construction history for a moment. I got my object selected, poly bevel. Let's look at some of these options. Segments. You can add way too much geometry, and this is a classic reason I hate bevel. You see so many modelers say, ooh, it's going to look really good if I add tons of edge loops with my bevel. It's going to be so smooth and perfect. But what have you done? That's 2,000 faces for this tabletop. That's crazy. I'm going to put my segments back to 112 segments. And to me, this looks great. I know how this flat line is going to take the light really well. Whether I texture this as glass or marble, it's going to be good. A lot of people want to round it with 3. And again, you get a nice round edge, but look at this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 faces on that corner. I went from 112 to 208 faces. I'm not really okay with that. Bevel is a fast track to really heavy polygon scenes with very little return. So that's why I like to teach the insert edge loop method first. It takes a little longer, but you have total control, and it doesn't quite lead to the same amount of polygon creep that bevel does. Bevel is great, wonderful uses. Okay, so NURBs to make a picture frame, a bowl, and these table legs with Loft between two curves, Revolve to revolve a single curve, and then Extrude to take as a profile along a curve path. There we go. Fun with NURBs to decorate our room. See you next video.